Cowboy Jasper McCoy had spent years mourning his lost family. Loneliness was his only companion in the merciless Wild West. But one day he stumbled upon an abandoned campfire. Something about the silence was wrong. Next to the still warm ashes lay a child's toy and a terrifying track that no human could have left. And that track told a story of abduction. He found a woman separated from her son and realized he must now save an innocent life. But Jasper didn't know that by following the abductors, he would uncover the most terrifying truth about what actually happened that night at the campfire. This truth is connected to his dead family and will shed light on the agonizing secret of his own past. Watch until the end to find out what was hidden in the shadow of the fire and why this horrible discovery will make him the most wanted target for those who took the child. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over the parched earth of the Wild West. Dust whirled in the evening breeze as Jasper McCoy rode his horse Dusty along the familiar trail that wound through his family's ranch. He had plowed the same land for years, the weight of solitude pressing down on him like a heavy saddle. The ranch was his birthright, a legacy passed down through generations. But every passing day felt like a battle against time, against the encroaching desolation that threatened to swallow his dreams. Jasper was a man of the land, his hands calloused from years of toil. He had lost his wife, Clara, to a fever 3 winters ago, and since then, the laughter that once echoed through the ranch had turned to silence. In the vastness of the open prairie, he felt like a ghost haunting his own life, searching for meaning amidst the endless expanse of grass and sky. He believed in hard work, in the quiet dignity of a man who tilled the soil, yet the loneliness gnawed at him like a persistent coyote at the edges of his campfire. As he rode, the sun's descent painted the sky in hues of orange and crimson, a breathtaking canvas marred only by the harsh realities of survival in the unforgiving West. Jasper's thoughts drifted back to simpler times, memories of Clara's laughter mingling with the rustle of the wind through the tall grass. He missed her more than words could say, but the ache in his chest had dulled into a familiar sorrow. Today, however, he felt an unusual tug of his heart, a whisper of something lost, yet not forgotten. Suddenly, a plume of smoke caught his eye, rising from the edge of a nearby ravine. Curiosity piqued, he urged Dusty forward, the horse's hooves kicking up dust as they approached the source of the smoke. As he neared, a chilling sight greeted him. An abandoned campfire smoldered in the twilight, the ashes still warm, surrounded by the remnants of what had once been a lively gathering. Jasper dismounted, unease settling in his stomach. He scanned the area, searching for signs of life. The faint smell of burnt wood and something else, something metallic, filled the air. His instincts screamed that something was wrong. A discarded blanket lay crumpled on the ground, its edges frayed, while scattered around were items that told a story of hurried departure. A broken lantern, a half-eaten loaf of bread, and a child's toy, a small wooden horse, its paint chipped and faded. He picked up the toy, turning it over in his hands, memories flooding back of Clara's gentle smile as she taught their daughter Sarah to play with her own wooden horse. The thought of the little girl brought a sharp pang of grief, but it was quickly replaced by a gnawing fear. Where were the people who had camped here? Why had they left in such a hurry? As he crouched by the extinguished fire, a sudden rustle in the underbrush made him jump. His heart raced, and he instinctively reached for the revolver holstered at his hip. "Hello?" he called out, his voice steady despite the tremor of uncertainty. Silence answered him, thick and oppressive, wrapping around him like a shroud. Then he saw it, a flash of movement, a figure stumbling through the trees. A woman, disheveled and haunted, emerged into the dim light of the fading day. Her clothes were torn, her face smeared with dirt and fear. Jasper's heart sank as he took in her trembling form. She looked as if she had been running for her life. "Help me," she gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're coming." Before he could respond, she collapsed to the ground, her body shaking as if gripped by a fever. Jasper rushed to her side, dropping the wooden horse as he knelt beside her. What happened? Who's coming? His mind raced with questions, but the sight of her distress silenced them all. She looked up at him, her eyes wide with terror. "They took my son. He's just a boy. I tried to escape, but they're out there." Her words tumbled out in a desperate rush, and Jasper felt the weight of her fear settle deep within him. Without thinking, he wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "You're safe now," he reassured her, though doubt gnawed at him. "We'll find him, I promise." In that moment, he became something more than a rancher. He was a protector, a beacon of hope in a world that had grown dark and cruel. The harsh realities of the West had forged him into a man of strength, but now, as he held her trembling body against his, he realized that kindness and compassion were equally powerful. The woman's breath steadied as she leaned into him, drawing strength from his presence. "I'm Mary," she managed, her voice steadier now. "My son's name is Billy. He's only 7. Jasper nodded, his resolve hardening. "We'll get him back, Mary. But first, we need to find a safe place." He scanned the horizon, the shadows growing longer as night began to creep in. The vastness of the prairie now felt like a trap, every rustle of the wind a reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the edges of the campfire's glow. As he helped her to her feet, he felt the weight of their shared fear. The world outside was a brutal place, filled with outlaws, greed, and the relentless pursuit of gold. But in this moment, he was reminded of the goodness that still existed within the hearts of men. They would face whatever awaited them together, and he would not turn away from the call of duty that now beat in his chest. The sun dipped below the horizon, surrendering to the darkness that enveloped them. In that moment, Jasper understood that he had stepped into a story far greater than his own, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the indomitable spirit of humanity that could shine even in the blackest night. Yet, he had no idea that their quest would lead them into the depths of a terrifying truth, changing the course of his life forever. Chapter 2. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the dried grasslands, where the night's chill began to creep in like an unwelcome visitor. Jasper McCoy stood beside his horse, Dusty, the echo of Mary's desperate voice still lingering in the air. The abandoned campfire flickered in his mind, a haunting reminder of the lives that had been there moments before, lives now possibly in peril, swallowed by the vastness of the prairie. "Jasper, please!" Mary's voice trembled, the fear etched deep into the lines of her face. "I don't know where to turn. They took him in the night. He was just sleepin' by the fire, and then they came, like shadows slippin' through the trees." Her wild, frantic eyes darted about, searching for reassurance, for a flicker of strength in a world gone dark. Jasper felt the weight of her gaze, a silent plea that tugged at the frayed edges of his heart. He had buried that part of himself, the part that longed to protect and nurture, deep beneath layers of grief. But now, like a stubborn weed pushing through cracked earth, it began to rise again. "Tell me everything you remember, Mary," he urged, his voice steadying like the ground beneath his boots. "How many were there? Did you see their faces?" Mary shook her head, her hair wild and unkempt, a tumbleweed caught in a storm. "No faces, just figures. Big ones. They moved quick and quiet. I thought I was dreamin', but then I heard Billy scream. Oh God, I thought I'd lost him too." Jasper ran a hand through his graying hair, the roughness of the stubble on his chin grounding him in the moment. He could feel the weight of Clara and Sarah's absence pressing down on him, like the heavy saddle he used to carry on long rides. His heart ached for a daughter he could no longer hold, a wife whose laughter had been silenced too soon. But now, here stood Mary, a mother in distress, a flickering candle against the encroaching darkness. "Let's get to your camp, see what we can find," he said, his mind racing. He couldn't promise Mary that everything would be all right, but he could offer his strength, his resolve. "We'll track them down, and I swear I won't let anything happen to Billy." "Thank you," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread of hope. "Thank you." With a nod, Jasper mounted Dusty, and Mary climbed onto the horse behind him, her arms wrapping tightly around his waist. The warmth of her body against him was a stark contrast to the chill settling into the air. As they rode, the world around them transformed, the vast prairie opening up like an endless sea beneath the deepening twilight. The silence between them was heavy, filled with unspoken fears and the distant rustle of grass. Jasper could hear the rhythmic thud of Dusty's hooves, a steady heartbeat in the gathering gloom. He stole glances at Mary, whose brow furrowed in concentration, as if willing the shadows to yield their secrets. He found himself wishing he could take away her pain, to promise her that everything would be all right. But how could he make such promises in a world where darkness lurked just beyond the firelight? As they approached the site of the abandoned camp, the remnants of the fire crackled faintly in the stillness, its embers glowing like lost stars. Jasper dismounted first, then helped Mary down, her feet landing softly on the ground. The scene before them was a chilling reminder of the chaos that had unfolded just hours ago. "Over there," Mary pointed, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's where Billy was sleeping." Jasper moved closer, scanning the area. The ground was disturbed, the earth churned as if a great beast had risen from it. He knelt down, brushing aside the cold ash of the fire, revealing a tangle of twigs and grass. "Looks like they left in a hurry," he muttered, his gut twisting with unease. "Do you think he's still alive?" Mary's voice trembled, the edge of despair creeping back in. "I reckon they wouldn't take him if he weren't," Jasper replied, though uncertainty gnawed at him like a starving coyote. "But we need to move fast. Night's setting in, and the longer we wait, the farther they'll get." He stood up, meeting Mary's eyes. "You stay close to me, and keep your wits about you. I'll not let anything happen to you or Billy." With that, they set off, moving away from the camp and deeper into the shadows of the prairie. The air grew heavier, a weighty silence pressing down upon them, punctuated only by the distant howl of the wind. Jasper led the way, his instincts sharp, every crackle of a twig beneath his boots sending his heart racing. "Jasper," Mary said, her voice barely a whisper, "what if they come back?" He glanced back at her, trying to catch the flicker of courage in her eyes. "If they do, we'll be ready." He felt the truth of those words. He would not let fear dictate their fate. The ghosts of his past had haunted him long enough, and now he had a chance to reclaim a piece of his lost self. As they pressed on, the landscape shifted around them. What had once been familiar, the wide-open plains, now felt like a labyrinth, shadows twisting and turning into shapes that danced just out of sight. The stars began to pierce the darkening sky, tiny pinpricks of light reminding him of Clara's laughter, of Sarah's playful spirit. He gritted his teeth against the memories, the ache of love mingling with the urgency of the moment. After what felt like an eternity navigating the vast emptiness, they stumbled upon a low ridge. Jasper put a finger to his lips, signaling Mary to stop. He crouched low, peering over the edge, heart pounding like a drum. Below, a small clearing opened up, illuminated by the ghostly glow of a fire. "Look," he breathed, motioning for Mary to join him. "They're down there." Mary knelt beside him, her breath hitching in her throat. The flickering light revealed a group of rugged men, their faces obscured by shadow, but their presence exuded an air of menace. Jasper's instincts screamed at him. These were the ones who had taken Billy. He could see a small figure tied to a tree, the dim light barely illuminating the child's small frame. "Billy!" Mary gasped, her voice breaking. In that moment, All her fears seemed to coalesce into one single thought. Her son needed her, and she could not let him down. "Stay here," Jasper commanded, his voice low and firm. He turned to her, the weight of his own fears pooling in his chest. "I'll get him back. You keep watch." Mary grabbed his arm, her grip fierce and desperate. "No, we need to go together. I can't just sit here." "Mary," he said, his voice breaking slightly, "if they see you, they'll—" "I don't care," she shouted, her voice fierce with the fire of a mother's love. "I'll not let them take my boy. You think I'm scared? I've lived through the worst of it already." "We do this together." Jasper locked eyes with her, and in that moment he saw not just a desperate mother, but a fierce warrior determined to fight for her child. It stirred something deep within him, a fire that had long been extinguished. He nodded slowly, his heart swelling with a newfound resolve. "All right then," he said, the weight of their pact settling between them. "We go together, but we have to be smart about this. We're outnumbered." As they crept closer to the clearing, the flickering firelight painted their faces in hues of orange and yellow, the glow revealing the tense determination etched in both of their expressions. The rustling of leaves and the crackling of the fire filled the night air, an ominous symphony underscoring their mission. Mary's hand found Jasper's, their fingers intertwining, a silent vow of solidarity. They inched forward, hearts pounding like war drums, ready to face whatever darkness awaited them beyond the flames. With each cautious step, Jasper felt the weight of the past lifting, replaced by the fierce determination to protect this mother and her child. The darkness had come, but so had the light of resilience, flickering against the vast emptiness of the night. Together, they would confront the shadows and reclaim the light that had been stolen from them. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. As the sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged terrain, Jasper and Mary pressed on through the thickening darkness. The air was sharp with the scent of sagebrush, a wild perfume that mingled with the musty odor of damp earth, remnants of the afternoon rain. Every rustle in the underbrush sent a shiver down Jasper's spine, but he held Mary's hand tightly, the warmth of her palm a solace against the encroaching chill. "Do you see him?" Mary whispered, her voice steady, though the tremor in her fingers betrayed her fear. Jasper strained his eyes, catching glimpses of rough-hewn figures lounging around the flickering light of a campfire not too far off. The silhouettes loomed large, and the laughter that erupted from their ranks was coarse and raw, echoing against the vast silence of the prairie. "Not yet," he replied, his voice low and gravelly. He could feel the weight of her worry pressing down on him, like a heavy saddle that threatened to crush him under its burden. "We gotta be smart about this." Mary glanced up at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "If they're hurting him, we can't wait. We gotta do something now." The firelight flickered across her face, illuminating the fierce determination etched in her brow. Jasper nodded, feeling a swell of respect for her tenacity. She was no fragile flower. She was a mother on a mission, driven by the love for her child. "All right, let's find a way to get closer. We'll need to plan our approach." They moved silently, their feet crunching softly on the gravel and dried leaves. The campfire crackled, sending sparks spiraling into the night sky, illuminating the faces of the men who lingered too comfortably by the flames. Each man was a tableau of rough edges and hard lives, eyes glinting like stones under the stars. Jasper could feel the tension knotting in his stomach, the familiar dread that came with danger looming just out of sight. He crouched low behind a cluster of boulders, gesturing for Mary to follow suit. "We can't just charge in there," he murmured, his heart racing. "We need to know what we're up against." Peering through the jagged rocks, they watched as one of the men, a burly figure with a beard like tangled brush, leaned forward, speaking animatedly to another. "I swear, if that kid don't shut up soon, I'm gonna—" "Keep your voice down," another man hissed, his eyes darting around the camp as if they could sense the danger lurking just outside their flickering circle of light. "We don't want no trouble. Just keep an eye on him." Mary's breath hitched at the mention of Billy. Jasper felt her fingers tense in his grip, but he squeezed back reassuringly. "We'll get him back," he whispered. "Just hold on." Time stretched thin, like the shadows that danced between them and the men, as every second felt like an eternity. The laughter faded into muted grumbles, and Jasper leaned closer, straining to catch every word. The men were discussing their plans, speaking of a nearby town where they could sell their captive for a hefty price. "Tomorrow night we'll be gone," the bearded man declared, his voice a low growl.
"The boy'll fetch a good sum, and then we'll be living easy." Jasper felt a surge of rage rise within him, hot and fierce like the desert sun. He met Mary's gaze, her eyes wide with fear and determination, and he knew they could not wait any longer. "We need to move," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "We'll create a distraction. You stay low, and I'll draw their attention." "What? No!" Mary protested, her voice a sharp whisper of panic. "You can't just—" "I can't let them take him," Jasper interrupted, his jaw set. "You're the one who's got to take care of Billy. I'll do what's needed to buy you time." A moment passed, the weight of their circumstances hanging heavily between them. Mary's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but then the firelight caught the hard line of her mouth, and she nodded, albeit reluctantly. "Just be careful, Jasper." "I promise," he said, though the words felt hollow. He turned away from her, taking a deep breath to steady himself, the cool night air filling his lungs. The world around them was painted in shades of indigo and silver, and the stars pierced the sky like distant lanterns guiding lost souls home. With one last glance at Mary, he slipped away from their hiding spot, moving with the stealth of a coyote under the cover of night. Every step was a careful calculation, a dance with danger that made his heart pound in his chest. The campfire crackled louder as he approached, the men oblivious to his presence, yet each pulse of sound felt like a warning, urging him to turn back. "Hey!" he called out, his voice booming across the stillness. The men turned, surprised eyes locking onto him as he stepped into the light, hands raised in a gesture of surrender. "You got no business here." The men reacted like cornered animals, their expressions shifting from surprise to hostility in an instant. The bearded man narrowed his eyes, a sneer curling his lips. "And who are you, old man? This ain't none of your concern." "Maybe not," Jasper replied, keeping his voice steady, "but I reckon you're making a mighty big mistake. That boy you got tied up, he's not yours to keep." Laughter erupted from the group, harsh and mocking, but it faltered as Jasper's gaze hardened. "You think this is a joke?" he pressed, each word laced with the weight of his resolve.
"You think you can just take a child and walk away without consequences?" "Consequences?" the bearded man spat, stepping forward, fists clenched. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Maybe not," Jasper shot back, "but I know enough to see the cowardice in your eyes." He felt the adrenaline coursing through him, sharp and electric. "What's it gonna be? You can step away now, or I can make this difficult for you." The tension crackled like the fire, and for a moment it seemed the world held its breath. The men exchanged glances, weighing their options, and Jasper's heart raced. He could feel Mary's presence in the back of his mind, her fierce determination propelling him forward. "Get the boy!" the bearded man growled, his voice dripping with venom. But Jasper had anticipated the order. He surged forward, ready to fight, to protect, to reclaim what had been stolen. But before he could reach the boy, chaos erupted. The men lunged, and Jasper ducked and weaved, the sounds of fists striking flesh and the crack of boots against the ground echoing in his ears. He fought back with everything he had, fueled by the image of Mary's pleading face and the memory of his own lost daughter. "Billy!" he shouted, desperate to reach the child. "I'm coming for you!" Amidst the scuffles and shouts, he caught sight of the boy, wide-eyed and terrified, tied to a tree just beyond the reach of the firelight. His heart ached at the sight, the boy's fear mirroring the loss he had endured. In that moment, he fought harder, the raw energy of his grief transforming into a weapon. A fist connected with his jaw, sending him staggering back, but Jasper shook it off. He had to get to Billy. He had to show Mary they could win. As the skirmish raged on, he refused to falter, focusing on the boy's desperate eyes, a beacon in the dark. "Hold on, kid. I'll get you out of there." With a final surge of strength, Jasper broke free from the fray, his focus narrowing on the boy. The world around him faded, and all he could see was Billy. He charged forward, ready to cut the ropes that bound the boy, when suddenly the bearded man loomed before him, a shadow against the flickering firelight. "Not so fast, rancher," he growled, raising a knife gleaming in the dim light. But before Jasper could react, a shout pierced the night air, a voice he recognized. "Get away from him!" Mary emerged from the darkness, wielding a heavy branch like a club, her face fierce with determination. The sight of her, so unapologetically fierce, ignited a spark of hope within Jasper. With a swift motion, she swung the branch, catching the bearded man off guard. The knife clattered to the ground as he stumbled back, a look of disbelief crossing his face. Jasper seized the moment, dashing past him to the boy. "Hold on, Billy, I'm right here." As Jasper knelt before the terrified child, he quickly worked to untie the ropes that bound him. "You're safe now, son. We're going to get you out of here," he said, his voice steady as he met the boy's wide gaze. In that moment, the world narrowed again, just him, Billy, and the promise of safety. The chaos of the fight faded into the background, and for a heartbeat, there was only hope. But as the ropes fell away, the camp erupted into chaos once more. Mary was grappling with the bearded man, her fierce spirit igniting a fire in the others, and Jasper knew they had to move fast. "Let's go!" he shouted, grabbing Billy's small hand in his and pulling him to his feet. Together, they made a break for the shadows, leaving behind the chaos of the campfire and the men who thought they could take what didn't belong to them. "Stay close," Jasper urged, glancing back at Mary, who was still locked in a struggle with her opponent. He felt a surge of desperation, knowing they couldn't leave her behind. "Mary!" he called out, his voice cutting through the night like a knife. "We need you!" With a final push, she broke free from her attacker, her eyes finding Jasper's. The firelight illuminated her face, streaked with dirt and determination. She sprinted toward them, the three of them united, an unlikely family forged in the heat of fear, rising together against the shadows of the night. As they fled into the darkness, the sounds of anger and confusion faded behind them, leaving only the distant crackle of the campfire and the pounding of their hearts echoing in the stillness. Jasper felt the weight of loss and grief still pressing on him, but in that moment, he knew they had found something more precious than what they had lost, a chance to fight for hope, a chance to reclaim their future together.